After that kiss. After that kiss. Everything changed. Not in an explosive way. Not like in the movies. But in very small ways. Ways that couldn't be undone. The next morning I woke up first. Connor was still asleep. But this time he wasn't in the bed across from me. He was lying right beside me. The space between the two beds had disappeared at some point. I couldn't remember exactly when. I only remembered that after that kiss, neither of us wanted to go back to where we'd been. Connor was lying on his side, one hand resting lightly on my waist, as if he'd always done that, as if it had always belonged there. I lay still, afraid to move too much, just watching him. 10 years. I'd looked at this face thousands of times. When he laughed, when he dozed off in class, when he sulked over losing a game. But never had I looked at him like this, like someone I could reach out and touch, without needing a reason. Seen enough? Connor's voice was husky. I startled. You're awake? Connor opened his eyes, smiling lazily. Since you started looking at me like you were about to eat me alive. I went red. Shut up. Connor laughed, then pulled me a little closer. Good morning, he said. A simple greeting. But the way he said it was nothing like before. Good morning, I replied. A silence, but not an awkward one. Connor looked at me, his gaze lingering longer than usual. Oliver, he said softly. Yeah, are we doing this for real? I understood what he was asking. Not about the kiss, but about everything. I nodded. Yeah. Connor looked at me for a few more seconds, then smiled gently. Okay. Nothing more needed to be said. But things weren't as simple as just okay. That afternoon, we ran into Jake in the cafeteria. And it took less than 5 minutes. Okay, I'm guessing you two have kissed. I nearly choked on my water. Connor burst out laughing. That obvious? Jake looked at us, shaking his head. Not obvious. Crystal clear. I sighed. Sorry for not telling you sooner. Jake shrugged. I don't need an apology. I just need to know what you two are doing. Connor leaned back in his chair. Trying. Jake frowned. Trying? I glanced at Connor, then back at Jake. We're figuring things out. Jake studied both of us for a long time. And Ryan? He asked. Connor answered. That's over. Jake nodded slowly. Okay. But his eyes still weren't fully at ease. Just don't hurt each other, Jake said. I and Connor looked at each other. Neither of us answered, because we both knew that was the hardest thing to avoid. In the days that followed, we began to practice being a couple. Sounds funny, but that's exactly what it was. We learned how to hold hands in public. At first secretly, then more naturally. We learned how to sit close to each other without pretending. And sometimes, Connor would lean in and whisper small things in my ear. Miss me? We've been together all day. Still miss you. Those words. Connor never would have said them before. But it wasn't always easy. One afternoon, while I was in the library, I got a text from Connor. Connor, I think I just saw Ryan. My heart stuttered. Me where? Connor, outside. I didn't reply right away. Connor, do you think I should talk to him? I stared at the screen. For a long time. Me. Do you want to? A moment later, Connor replied. Connor, I don't know. I sighed. Me, then don't. 1 minute. 2 minutes. Connor, okay. I put my phone down, but the feeling in my chest wasn't at ease. That evening, when Connor came back to the room, I asked, did you see Ryan? Connor shook his head. No. I nodded. Okay. But I could see it. Something still left behind. Oliver, Connor called. What? This isn't going to be easy. I smiled softly. I know. Connor came closer. I might make mistakes. I looked at him. I might too. Connor nodded. Then, we need to tell each other. I nodded. No hiding. Connor held out his hand. Deal? I took it. Deal. But deep down, I knew not every promise is easy to keep, and not every challenge comes from the outside. Sometimes, the hardest thing to overcome is our own feelings. Everything began to feel more real, not trying in some vague way anymore, but moments that forced us to face the fact that we were genuinely in a relationship. One evening, Connor pulled me outside. "Where are we going?" I asked, putting on my shoes. "Secret. I hate surprises." But I don't. We walked out of the dorms, across campus, then stopped at a small restaurant nearby. Nothing fancy, just an ordinary burger place. "This is your secret?" I raised an eyebrow. Connor shrugged. "Yep, our first date." I froze. "What?" Connor looked at me, smiling lightly. "We never had a proper date." I didn't know what to say. "So," Connor pulled out a chair for me. "Sit down, Oliver." I sat, my heart beating faster than usual. Not because it was my first date ever, but because it was my first date with Connor. "How does it feel?" Connor asked, sitting across from me. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Strange." Connor nodded. "Me too." We ordered simple things: burgers, fries, soda. But the atmosphere was anything but simple. Connor looked at me more than usual. Not unconsciously, but deliberately. "Stop looking at me like that," I said. "Like what?" "Like I'm a stranger." Connor smiled gently. "You're not a stranger." He paused. "You're someone I'm trying to see in a different way." That sentence silenced me. "Different how?" I asked. Connor tilted his head. "How to put it?" He looked at me, slowly, carefully. "Before, when I looked at you, I saw home." My heart tightened. "And now?" Connor smiled. "Still home." I let out a quiet breath. "But I'm starting to notice details I used to overlook." "Like what?" Connor didn't answer right away. He reached up and lightly touched the corner of my lips. "Like this." I went still. "What?" "That little mark. From when you bite your lip when you're stressed." I unconsciously raised my hand. Connor smiled. "See?" I flushed. "Shut up." Connor laughed. But then he went quiet. The air between us shifted. "Oliver," Connor said softly. "Yeah." "Can I ask you something? Kinda hard?" I nodded. "Yeah." Connor took a breath. "What if things don't turn out the way you expect?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" Connor looked down at the table. "I mean, what if one day we realize we're better as friends?" That question. I'd thought about it before, but hearing Connor say it out loud still hurt. "I don't know," I said honestly. Connor nodded. "Me neither." A silence. "But I know one thing," I added. Connor looked up. "I'd rather try and fail than not try at all." Connor looked at me, then smiled softly. "Sound familiar?" I smiled. "Yeah. You said it first." Connor nodded. "Then we're both responsible for this." I agreed. Together. After dinner, we walked back. This time, Connor took my hand first. Not secretly, not hesitantly, just simply held it. A few people glanced over. I noticed. Connor did too, but neither of us let go. "You okay?" Connor asked quietly. I shook my head. "I'm fine." Connor squeezed my hand gently. "Good." We kept walking. But as we neared the dorms, I saw someone standing there. Ryan. He was leaning against the wall, hands in his pockets, eyes looking straight at us. Connor stopped. "So did I." The air changed instantly. "Connor," Ryan said. His voice was calm, but not cold. Connor let go of my hand. A reflex, but enough for me to feel it. "Hey," Connor replied. A pause. Ryan looked at me, then back at Connor. "We need to talk." Connor nodded slightly. "Yeah." I stood there, not knowing whether to leave or stay. Connor looked at me. "Oliver, It's fine," I said quickly. "Go talk." Connor hesitated, then nodded. "Wait for me." I nodded, then stepped inside. But I didn't go far. I stood in the hallway, listening. Not because I wanted to, but because, couldn't he not? "So it's real," Ryan said. "Yeah." "You and Oliver." Connor was silent. "How long?" "Not long." Ryan laughed softly. Long enough to end things with me. A pause. I'm sorry. Don't, Ryan said. I don't need an apology. Connor said nothing. I just need one answer, Ryan continued. Why? I held my breath. Connor didn't answer right away. But when he did, his voice was very clear. Because I never stopped choosing him. My heart pounded. Even when you weren't with him, Ryan asked. Even then. A long silence. Then Ryan exhaled. I understand. No anger. No blame. Just acceptance. Good luck, Ryan said. Connor didn't respond. Just stood there. I heard Ryan's footsteps fade away. Then, silence. A moment later, Connor walked in. He looked at me. I looked back. No questions needed. No explanation needed. I heard everything. Connor stepped closer. Oliver. I didn't let him finish. I pulled him in and kissed him. Not out of impulse, but because I needed him to know. I had heard, and I chose him. Connor kissed back. This time. Without hesitation. Without holding back. Just certain. And in that moment, I understood. Maybe we make mistakes. Maybe we fight. Maybe we hurt. But at least, we no longer had to wonder. After that night, things weren't just more real anymore. They were undeniable. Connor no longer hid. No longer left things vague. No longer let uncertain silences linger. He held my hand even when others were around. Called my name differently. Not the casual you he always used. But Oliver. Slower, softer. Small changes. But enough to make me realize. I was no longer alone in this. But the clearer things became. The heavier the pressure felt. One afternoon, I got a message from my mom. Mom, how are you lately? Have you found someone special? I stared at the screen. For a long time, Connor was sitting beside me at the time. What is it? He asked. I handed him my phone. Connor read it, then smiled slightly. The classic question. I sighed. Yeah. Connor looked at me, and I shrugged. And I don't know how to answer. Connor stopped smiling. Because of me? He asked. I didn't answer right away. Not only because of you, I said honestly, but because everything. Connor nodded. Is your family difficult? He asked. I thought about it. Not the kind that would react violently, I said. But not the kind that would easily accept it either. Connor was quiet. I've never told them, I added. That you like guys? I nodded. Connor looked down. Me neither. A silence. Not uncomfortable, but heavy. We don't need to rush, Connor said. I looked at him. Yeah. But deep down I knew that was one of the biggest challenges ahead. Not just us together, but us in the world. And the world wasn't always kind. A few days later, things started to get more complicated. Not from the outside, but from within ourselves. Connor started getting busier. Gym, friends, group projects. It wasn't that he was neglecting me, but the time he spent with me grew shorter. And I noticed. I started keeping track. Me, Connor, are you coming back for dinner tonight? Connor, probably not, going out with some classmates. Me, okay, just that. But I felt something inside me wasn't right. Not jealousy, but fear. Fear that we were sliding back toward just friends again. That night, Connor came back late. I was still awake. Hey, he said, stepping in. Yeah. Connor looked at me. You okay? Fine. The familiar answer. Connor didn't believe it. Oliver. What? Don't do that. Do what? Pretend. I went quiet. Connor stepped closer. I know what you're thinking. Then say it. Connor sighed. You think I'm pulling away from you? I smiled faintly. Aren't you? Connor shook his head. No. Then what is it? Connor looked at me. I'm trying to keep everything else in my life without losing you. I said nothing. Oliver, I don't want this relationship to become my whole world. That sentence hurt. Then what am I? I asked. Connor went still. Not everything. Right? Connor didn't answer right away. And that silence was enough. I get it, I said. No, you don't. I get it, I repeated. My voice colder than I intended. I shouldn't have expected so much. Connor stepped closer. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Connor clenched his hands. I mean, I don't want to lose myself. I looked at him. And you think being with me means losing yourself? Connor opened his mouth. But there was no perfect answer. See, I said. Connor shook his head. Oliver, listen to me. I'm tired. I turned away. Not because I didn't want to listen, but because I was afraid I'd hear something even more painful. That night, we went back to 2 separate beds. The distance returned. Not because we couldn't be close, but because we hadn't learned how to hold onto each other yet. And for the first time since we started, I asked myself, is love enough? When 2 people are still learning how to be themselves. The next morning, neither of us said a word. No good morning. No have you eaten. Nothing. Connor got up first. I heard him moving, getting dressed, then opening the door. I didn't turn around. The door closed. Silence. I lay there a little longer, staring at the ceiling. That familiar feeling returned. Distance. Not because we didn't care, but because we didn't know what to do with that care. I went to class, sat down, opened my laptop, but couldn't focus. My phone buzzed. Connor, you up yet? I looked at the message. Didn't reply. Not because I wanted to ignore him, but because I didn't know what to say. A moment later. Connor, I'm sorry about last night. I closed my eyes, read it again and again. Then finally, me too. Not the best response, but it was the only one I had. That afternoon, Connor was waiting outside my classroom. He was standing there, hands in his pockets. His eyes found me the moment I walked out. Oliver. I stopped. Can we talk? Connor asked. I nodded. We walked to the back of the building. Somewhere quiet. No one around. About last night. Connor began. I'm not angry, I said first. Connor paused. But I'm not okay either. He nodded. I know. A silence. Connor, I said, looking straight at him. I don't want to become a burden to you, Oliver. No, listen to me. I took a breath. I don't want you to have to choose between me and your life. Connor looked at me. But I also can't pretend I don't need you. My voice grew smaller. Because I do. Connor stepped closer. Then don't pretend. I'm not pretending. You are, Connor said. You're pretending you're fine with less time. But you're not. I went quiet. Because he was right. I'm not okay either, Connor continued. I looked up. What do you mean? Connor smiled softly. I mean, I'm struggling too. I can see that. No, you haven't seen all of it. Connor exhaled. I've never been in a relationship like this before. Neither have I. Connor nodded. And I'm scared. I stopped. Scared of what? Connor looked at me. Scared that if I make you my everything, I'll lose you. I didn't understand. Sounds backwards. Doesn't it? Connor smiled sadly. Yeah. But it's true. Connor stepped closer. Because if I put everything into you, and something goes wrong, we'll fall apart. I finished for him. Connor nodded. Yeah. A silence. So what do you want? I asked. Connor didn't hesitate this time. I want us not to be each other's everything. I frowned. That sounds like less. Connor shook his head. No. He looked straight at me. It means we last longer. I went quiet, thinking. So then, I said slowly, we need to learn how to be together while still being ourselves. Connor smiled. Exactly. I nodded. Okay. Connor blinked. Okay. Yeah. I stepped closer. But you have to promise me one thing. What? Don't make me something you can overlook. Connor squeezed my hand. Never. I looked at him, and I want to make you my whole world. Connor smiled softly. Thank you. I'll keep you as a very important part. Connor nodded. That's enough. A silence. But this time, not heavy, just clear. Connor pulled me close. Not a kiss, just a hug. Tight one. unhurried, unafraid. Oliver, he whispered. Yeah. Thank you for not leaving. I smiled softly. Thank you for not making me have to. Connor held tighter. And in that moment, I understood. Our love wasn't the perfect kind, wasn't the easy kind, but it was the kind where we chose each other. After that conversation, things didn't magically become perfect, but better in a realistic way. Connor didn't disappear. I stopped clinging. We began to find a rhythm. Some days we spent nearly the whole day together, eating together, studying together, sitting in silence, and still feeling whole. And then there were days we drifted apart. Connor went out with friends. I stayed at the library, but different from before. We told each other, Connor, going out with some classmates tonight. Me, okay, come back early. Connor, what if I don't? Me, I'll lock the door. Connor, rude. Me, simple messages, but warm. One evening, while I was working on an assignment, Connor walked in. Oliver. I looked up. What? Connor stood there, looking a little tense. I talked to my parents today. I froze. About? Connor nodded. About me. My heart raced. And? Connor exhaled. Not bad. I blinked. Not bad? Connor smiled softly. Yeah. Not the we're proud of you kind. But not the never mention this again kind either. I let out a quiet breath. So, okay? Connor nodded. Better than I expected. I stood up, walked over. Connor. He looked at me. What? Thank you. Connor frowned. For what? For being brave enough to say it. Connor smiled lightly. I wasn't brave. Then what was it? Connor looked at me. It's because I didn't want to hide you. My heart softened. I'll tell them too, I said. Connor blinked. Really? I nodded. Not right away. But I will. Connor stepped closer. No rush. I know. A silence. But this time, nothing to be afraid of. A few weeks later, everything felt natural. We stopped overthinking what we were. We just were. One afternoon, we sat on the grass after class. Connor was lying down, head resting on my lap. I was reading. He was playing with my fingers. Oliver. Yeah. Remember when I asked you if you wanted to date someone else? I smiled softly. I remember. Connor closed his eyes. I hated the thought of that. I know. But I was too afraid to say it. I put the book down. Why? Connor opened his eyes. Because I was scared. If I said it, you'd leave. I looked at him. And now? Connor smiled. Now I know. You'll stay. I leaned down, touched my forehead gently to his. Yeah. A silence. The breeze moved softly. The afternoon sun was gentle. Connor laced his fingers through mine. Oliver. What? We're going to be okay. Right? I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't know, but because I understood. Nothing is certain, but I still said. Yeah. Connor smiled. Not very convincing. I laughed along. Because I can't promise that. Connor looked at me. Then what can you promise? I thought about it. Then said, I promise. No matter what happens, I won't go quiet. Connor nodded. Okay. Me too. A simple promise. But this time, we knew how to keep it. That evening, as we returned to the room, Connor stood at the door. Oliver. Yeah. He looked at me. His eyes, like the very first time. But different. More certain. I'm glad I didn't lose you. I smiled softly. I'm glad you refused to let me belong to anyone else. Connor laughed. Selfish of me, wasn't it? I like it. Connor stepped closer. Good. He leaned in, kissed me. Not in a rush. Not as a test. But familiarly. As if we had always been here. As if those 10 years had only been waiting for this moment. And when we pulled apart, Connor rested his forehead against mine. Oliver. Yeah. This time. Don't go anywhere. I looked at him, then smiled. I'm not going anywhere. Because sometimes, the best friend of 10 years, I sent someone you'll lose. But someone who will never let you belong to anyone else. And fortunately, this time, I didn't want to